Hey guys, welcome back. So in the last video we talked about mind mapping your job description, whatever that might be. And so today I wanted to talk a little bit about how to use your job description to set goals. So we'll talk about your work job description as well as your home job description, because most people, if you work outside the home, will actually have both. We want to make sure that we're not just pushing work forward, we also want to make sure we're pushing home forward, and vice versa, because sometimes we're so focused on things that are going on at home, we forget to goal set at work. I found that using your job descriptions to goal set is the easiest way, maybe the best way, to make sure you're not forgetting anything. So if you've not watched the last video talking about mind mapping your job description, you're welcome to go back and watch it, especially if you're a visual person. If you don't mind dissecting out like a long list of words, then by all means you can skip watching that last video. But I do talk about how to set up your job description at the same time, so that would be worthwhile for watching it. A quick synopsis: if you don't have a job description yet, I highly recommend you go look online and see if you can put something together from that, whether it's for your job position at work or whether it's something for your house. In which case there are websites out there that talk about being the CEO of your home, and so that would be a great place to start. So that being said, I'm going to turn that camera around and we will take a look at my job description at work and at home as a sample, and we'll start setting some goals for 2018. See you in a moment. Alright, so I'm going to walk you through my entire goal setting process and breaking it down and getting it to tasks. So today we're starting with setting goals. Now last year I used the power sheets when I was setting goals. I hadn't goal set in a very long time. I didn't really know where to start, and that I did find super helpful. I'm going to link that down for you below in case you also haven't goal set in a while and need kind of a running start. But once you've kind of been in the habit and done it for a year, you may or may not need to continue with the power sheets. You may like how that leads you through the thought process. But I am starting on my own. I'm embarking. So the whole idea behind the power sheets is that you're beginning with the end in mind. Where do you want to end up? What do you want your future to look like? So I do have that in my head already, so I am keeping that in mind as we go through all of this. So this page should look familiar if you've watched any of my previous videos. This is from the Momentum Planner from productiveflourishing.com. I'll link it down below. The annual page and the quarterly pages are only available if you buy the entire Momentum Planner set. It's really not that expensive, so I definitely recommend it if you're interested in using this page. They do have the monthly, weekly, and daily pages available. I think actually monthly and weekly pages available for free on their website, so you're welcome to check that out. And again, I will link that down below. So I did start filling this out a little bit, mainly with the big things that are going on next year. So I'm sure you've heard that big rock analogy where you put the big rocks in first and then everything else fills in around it. So knowing what my big trips are, my big events, the things I'm planning on attending, the things that are happening around me, that's important to know because that helps me plan around it. For example, if I know I'm going to be traveling a lot in a month, I'm not going to plan any huge major goals to be accomplished that month unless it just naturally falls as a result of whatever is going on that month. So this is where I'm going to put everything when I'm done with it, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start by using a scratch piece of paper. So this should look familiar from my mind mapping job descriptions video. I will link that down below in case you have not watched it, so you can see how I got to this point. The other thing I did off camera was I fleshed out my own personal version. So this is for my company position, and then this is for me personally. So again, in my video I mentioned you only need to write down as much as you need to jog your memory, so that's all that's here. So not all of this may make sense to you, but it makes sense to me, and that's the important part. All right, so let me grab a piece of paper and we will get started. So if you were goal setting last year, the first thing you're going to want to do is pull up last year's goals and see what's left, if there's anything that you want to bring forward. So this is what I was working off of this last year, and there are a few things that I have not accomplished yet. So I had the strat planning meeting. I'd already marked that as being 2018. Budgets need to be done, but those will be done this month. So clearing clutter around the house. I think you've heard me mention, if you've watched any of my videos, this has not happened this year. It was on my list of things to do and it did not happen. So this will be a project and a goal that I will bring forward into 2018. Restructuring the onboarding process. That was something I decided to make 2018 when I was looking at the time I had left this year and what else needed to be accomplished. So that got bumped forward. I have an ongoing goal of getting closer to a healthy weight and body size and just general healthiness. Like, I don't have to be skinny. I just want to be fit. I want to be able to have the energy to do the things that I want to do. I did complete the NAA Lyceum program. That really leaves the ongoing goal, which we'll talk a little bit about habits versus tasks in a later video, getting closer to healthy body weight, and then clearing surface clutter. And then for the work, I have restructuring, onboarding, and reviewing and revising the manuals, which technically falls under that. We'll talk again. This is going to be a 3-part series. We're going to start big with goals, and then we're going to break it down so you figure out how to get from goal to done, because I think that's the important part. A lot of people set goals, but then they don't know what to do with them. All right, so let's start. So first, okay, let me move these things out of the way here. So my ongoing goal is 2 pounds per month as far as getting closer to a healthier weight. So clear surface clutter around the house. So that's my next goal. Restructure onboarding. So these are the things that are carrying forward from last year. So I'm going to start with my personal mind map because I have a feeling most of my stuff is not going to be, well, some of it, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much of it's personal versus work. So I know for sure I'm wanting to join the Daughters of the King. It's actually a 3-month program of sorts, but not really. There's kind of a sequence of events that you go through in order to join that organization. As far as DJing, I'd like to DJ at least once per month. And it generally is some sort of swing dancing, and then fusion, which quickly is a combination of blues, West Coast swing, and tango. So these are 2 dance scenes that I'm trying to get into DJing for, so that's my goal, is to start DJing at least once a month and including fusion and West Coast swing in that. Alright, now you'll notice I kind of changed my mind here. So initially I post YouTube videos 2 times per week. I honestly think that 1 time per week is sustainable. And to be honest, this is not actually really a goal. This is a how am I going to get to the goal sort of a situation. So probably a better goal, something bigger, more overarching, would be to say the number of subscribers that I would like to get to. So for now, I'm putting a number down of 5,000. Usually what I do is I'm just brainstorming goals. So I may go back and change them. I may bump it up, I may bump it back. I may look and see with what I'm doing right now, as far as how many subscribers I'm getting a month, and then push that forward over the next 12 months. If it's something I'm already doing and it would be super easy to get there, I probably wouldn't set 5,000 as a goal. I would probably bump it up and make it more of a stretch goal. So I would actually have to do things in order to accomplish the goal. Because if it's just saying, I'm gonna get, 200 subscribers a month, but I'm already doing that, kind of what's the point of setting that goal? So keep that in mind when you're goal setting. It's something that should be a goal that it's something you should have to work for and work towards and actually be able to plan out. It's not necessarily something that should just happen, because then you shouldn't worry about tracking that necessarily as a goal. All right. I would like to get back to working on my blog, so I'm going to write 1 blog post per month, and that's aside from the YouTube videos, which I do tend to post there. And I actually have I have several blogs, most of which have kind of fallen by the wayside, and I have one called Grace Tide that I'm actually thinking about jumping back into again. So we'll see. Again, I'm just brainstorming at this point. Okay, so I've written down a travel goal that I have. The trip's already in the process, but it is not by any stretch of the imagination something I can just hop on a plane and hey, I'm there and everything's planned. So that's something I'm gonna have to put down as a goal. Attending a dance event that I'd like to go to that I haven't been to in quite a while, potentially with one of my friends from out of town, so I'm gonna put that down. I'm looking at some of these home projects. So I have clearing surface clutter that I would consider a home project. Home improvements wise, I want to finish the kitchen. It's been kind of in limbo status quo. Hey, it's good enough, it's functional for a couple of years now, mainly because it was such a wreck for several months that I just wanted to not have to tear everything apart again. There's not much left. We just need to finish the trim on the window and the windowsill and then put in a backsplash, paint the ceiling. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that much. So that can be something, well, it is something that I would like to get done this year. So that's pretty much everything I can think about for this section here. Actually, no. The other thing that I just added here was that I wanted to complete the liturgical year study. This was the book that I mentioned in one of my previous videos. It just came in yesterday. It's called Living the Christian Year. This is the study that I'm working through with the God and Glam group, and this actually takes you through the entire year. And it's one of those things that when you're done, you just basically start over again. So I do want to actually complete the entire year. I've completed studies that have been shorter term, 6 to 8 weeks, but this I'd actually like to get through. And I'm really enjoying it thus far, even though I'm just in the first week. Anyway, if you're interested in it, Living the Christian Year, Bobby Gross is the book that it's coming from. Okay, so I've added that on here. So that I think completes home. And then we have work items. Now, part of this, we also did a strategic planning, and there was some items that came up on the strategic planning. So some of that will get wrapped in here as well. There are things like reviewing policies and procedures and workflows. That's something I'm not necessarily going to be doing by myself. I'll have a part of that, but that's not necessarily something I want to set as a personal goal. Onboarding, restructure, that one is definitely something that's kind of more my base camp. We have some site manager things that we want to get done. That is also not really necessarily my department. So we don't necessarily have a starting point for this, but that's something we'll need to set a benchmark, like where we are now. But reducing complaints from our customers by improving communication. That was an area that we identified that we needed to work on as a company. I'm sure pretty much every company can work on it, but because we're a small company and we operate very leanly, trying to figure out the best way to communicate with people without taking just a ton of time communicating, which is, yeah, it's kind of the oxymoron. Like, how do you communicate well without over communicating and spending so much time on it? Because we don't have the time or the resources to dedicate one person to doing nothing but communicating. So that's something we're starting to work on already, but that's another goal that I would like to set. So that's work related. This is work related. So I only have 2 work related goals. Now, looking at this annual momentum planner, look how many spaces there are for annual goals. There's just 5. So as you are brainstorming, realize you're going to have to whittle these down. Now, if you accomplish some of these early, then it's not that big of a deal to add on an extra goal. So definitely don't toss away your brainstorming sheet, because you may want to kind of put these in order, and then when you complete one, bump the next one up, especially if it's mid-year. So the other thing to think about too is these are annual goals. So is this something that's going to take the entire year to accomplish, or at least the better part of a year? For me, this traveling, this may not be an annual goal. This may be more of like a quarterly objective, because it's going to be something completed in the first quarter. Attending Swing Diego, again, probably not an annual goal. That's going to be accomplished quarter 2. Finishing kitchen, that's probably going to be an annual goal. Writing 1 blog post per month. This isn't necessarily, it could be considered a goal, but is this more of a habit that I want to get into? Or is it more of a project than a goal? So there's fine lines between goals and projects, but for me, I'm trying to find things that are more long-term, bigger picture, because again, I have to narrow this down to 5. So this for sure is, these are, I would say that one is an annual goal, and we'll put that as 5. Joining the Daughters of the King. Well, yes, that's a goal. It's not like last year where I had the Lyceum program where it was literally like all throughout the entire year and I didn't graduate till November. And I had specific things I needed to do along the way. So the Daughters of the King is not necessarily a goal, I think. I think it's more of a project because it's not quite as long-term or as big of a project. So for me, a goal is something that needs to be broken down into projects in order to be accomplished, whereas a project is broken down into tasks or habits. I think think, at least in my mind, that's the distinction that I make. And of course, that's just something that is personal to me. You may disagree. You may have been to goal setting classes where they say something completely different. But I think in my mind, that's how I differentiate things. So a goal is made up of projects, which is made up of tasks. If you have something that's just a project, then there's just tasks underneath it and maybe some smaller sub projects, but not like some major projects that go into it. So the only other one that I might add is this 5,000 subscribers. Because to be honest, this improving communication is not necessarily my goal. Personally, it's not something I can accomplish by myself. This is, I think, more of a company goal. So I'm going to take that one off. So that gives me these. So getting closer to a healthy weight, restructuring the onboarding process, getting to 5,000 subscribers or whatever number I just decide, finishing the kitchen renovation, completing the liturgical year Bible study, and that looks like those are my 5 goals for next year. Now again, you notice that I'm kind of hitting a bunch of different areas. I've gotten work involved in there. I have creativity addressed. I have the house addressed. I have health addressed, and I have Christianity addressed. Now the family and friends, these are things I think that I'll have more projects that I'll want to work on. Keeping in touch with extended family, so maybe I'll make a goal/project of sending out birthday cards or making sure I reach out to people on Facebook periodically and set like a certain time frame for that. So again, yes, that could be considered a goal, but underneath that is just a bunch of tasks. So I'm not going to consider it a very big long-term annual goal. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me clean up here so you can kind of see where we ended up. I have my 5 goals that I've determined. I've numbered them. And I'm going to transfer those over here. I'm going to do it off camera so I can write neatly because I have to look at this for the rest of the year. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you'd like to share some of your goals, please share them in the comments below. I'd love to hear kind of what you guys are thinking and what you're planning for the next year. If you have any challenges, please put those in the comments. I have more videos in the Girlboss Functional Planning series coming up. The next one is actually going to be on breaking down these goals into projects so that we can start getting these things accomplished. So if you are not already subscribed and you would like to be notified when that video comes out and the ones after, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.